Hey everybody, Juan Ortega here, your business coach, and here is your business tip of the week. Today I want to talk to you about the different modalities of communication that are out there and making sure that you know what they are and you are utilizing them in your communications and in your sales in order to be more effective in many of the things that you do throughout your day. So here's what they are: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And on here it says that this is pretty much the population of the world. So it's pretty interesting to see that both visual and kinesthetic are at 40% and then auditory at 20%. So what do they mean? Essentially, if you're a student of neuro-linguistic programming or NLP, you'll learn that the human brain and people communicate through different ways, through different modalities. We tend to lean towards one or the other as a strength, and that's the three that you see on here. So when we say that someone communicates primarily through visual, that means that they see things, they learn through what they see through their eyes. Whereas auditory is they listen, so they're more perceptive to sound. And then kinesthetic is they learn through touch. And what's interesting about this is that not only does it represent how they learn, but it also means how they send out communication to the world. So if you're talking to someone who is a visual communicator, they'll say something like, "Do you see what I mean?" And if you're talking to somebody who's auditory, they'll say, "How does that sound to you?" And if you're talking to somebody who's kinesthetic, they'll say, "How does that feel to you?" Or "Does that feel right to you?" So it's very interesting. Just by having a conversation with someone, you'll pick up on some different clues that might let you know and understand what sort of communicator they are. So not only do they receive information through their particular preferred modality, but they also push out or send out information in the same method. So why do we need to know this as business owners? What does this have to do is that as business owners and even just as human beings, we're constantly communicating with other people, if nothing else, with our family members, with our kids, our spouses, and then in the workplace, with other coworkers, with employees. So you're communicating all the time. And by understanding that the person you're communicating with might fall towards a different modality than you prefer, and by adjusting, you're going to be more effective at communicating with that person because you're going to adjust your communication style. Okay, so, and the best example I can give is if you're in a sales environment, if you're meeting with a prospect and you're pitching them your product or service, and you know that that person is a visual receiver or visual communicator, then you're going to want to make sure that they have things to look at. Okay, so you may want to draw some things up on the whiteboard or put some things in front of them. Don't just talk to the visual communicator. Make sure that they have plenty of things to look at. All right, keep it really interesting for their eyes. You're also going to want to say things like, do you see what I mean? And how does that look like to you? If you're in a sales environment and you know that the other person is auditory with their communication, then you're going to want to make sure that the words you say are on point because they are listening very carefully. Every word you say or don't say matters. So you want to make sure that you've prepared that part of your presentation very, very well, and that you also give them time to speak and give them the opportunity to express themselves. And then if you're sitting with someone who is kinesthetic, then you want to make sure that you give them things to touch, to feel, to at the very least take notes with. One of the things that I often do when I find myself in a sales presentation of some sort is, instead of me being up on the whiteboard, I actually give the marker to the person and go, "Here, jump up there and let me give you a few things to write down." They love that sort of stuff, right? So everything that I'm doing is engaging with them in the modality of their preference, because what happens essentially is I begin to speak their language more clearly. Their brain is going to be more receptive and more understanding of what I'm saying. And there's going to be more rapport that's built because essentially we're on the same page, right? That's what happens, is you're on the same page. Think about it: if you have an employee and you're giving this employee some critical instructions on how to do a job or complete a project of some sort. would it be beneficial to know if that employee is visual, auditory, or kinesthetic? And would you then give those instructions in a different way because now you know that information, and because you know that if you speak to them the way that they would like to be spoken to, their brain is going to be more receptive to what you're saying, and ultimately the success of the project and maybe your business will be impacted because of how well you communicate with other people. Okay, so if you've learned one thing about neuro-linguistic programming is the different modalities of communication, I'm going to challenge you to number one, figure out what you are. And if you don't know what you are, email me and I'll send you a quick little test that you can take. And the second thing is start paying attention to the people around you. Start using this information and start communicating with them the way that their brain is wired to communicate. And I promise you, you're going to get some amazing results. Thanks for watching this week's Business Tip of the Week.